Reaching all the way back to 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition. Here is your host of Fate Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate magazine. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I have to tell you that I am so excited about tonight's show. I am very fortunate that I have so many friends that do the same thing I do. And, you know, that just makes life special. And I am just wanting to go ahead before we get started and let people know that that I know that we're coming up on the spooky season, and I know that we are having all the fun. So I just hope that you're getting your spook on, that you are getting a chance to get out and enjoy the season. I know that we are going from dead summer into feels like winter, but down here in Alabama. But you know what? It is all about being thankful and appreciating what we have. And you know what? Lifting up the people that are standing in harm's way and appreciating the troops and people that are supporting them. And I'm not really sure if I can be as political as this, but I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, I'll take that. But I'm just going to say that I am so sorry for the people of Israel and for the Americans who have lost their lives. And I really hate that, because you know what? That should never happen. You should never be someplace. You know, I work often at a music festival that is a major terror target here in the United States. And I can't even imagine what was going through anyone's head there a week ago today. So now that I've said that, condolences to everyone and prayers for everyone who doesn't know yet. So we're going to move on. I am very blessed. I have some of the best friends in the paranormal. They are some of the most interesting people sometimes here in the paranormal. And I am thrilled when I get together with them and we talk about all the things that we do, or, you know, I find out about things that they've done. And it's really special to me, because one of these people, I have traveled from one side of this country to the other, from the north to the south, to the east to the west. We have gone through Scotland together on the tour from hell, but that's another story too. And it's something, you know, I once endorsed that tour company. I can honest to goodness say I was so wrong. Never, ever, ever will I do that again. But I can definitely endorse Scotland. And I can definitely endorse Scottish Paranormal, because you know what? They are the real deal. They are the best investigators that I've gotten to work with outside of my own group. And, yeah, I think that's fantastic. My friend Lori Dorsey is joining me tonight with Mark Fultz. Mark Fultz is the host of Universal Truths, which is a great paranormal show. He is also the owner of Gypsy Moon, and that is his new metaphysical store in Milton, Florida, right outside Pensacola. He is probably the best person I've ever met for using his psychic abilities, his metaphysical talents, and education. Just off the chain ability to communicate with spirit. And he does that in ways that I didn't really know existed, because it was blowing my mind at the time. But you just really cannot understand this. Even when he explains it to you as you're watching him do it, it's a trip. I'm not going to lie, it will blow your freaking mind. And he worked with Lori and I in Pensacola at a private home, 2 of them nearby each other. And I just cannot wait for y'all to get this information because, not going to lie, best experience, freakiest experience, bar none, that I've had in the field. And I've had some wackadoodles. And these 2 guys are not. Lori, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Mark,
Hello.
Are you there?
Yes, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Oh, please. You know I call him as I see him. We're too good of friends not to, right? But we've been doing this, all of us individually have done this for years. And Lori and I have done this together for a few years. And Mark, it was great to be working with you too. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
It
Actually,
was
it
trippy.
really was a lot of fun. It was fun.
Yeah, but you knew what was happening. And that was mine and Lori's first time to have that experience. So I'm sure we looked like a couple of side order regrets sitting there watching. But
oh, no.
But, I wanted to go into a little bit. Mark, you died and you came back because people were such freaks and schmucks back in the day. They still are sometimes.
Yes,
and,
they are.
You literally were beaten to death. You died because of people's prejudices. And
well, yeah, that was.
Frankly,
frankly, they would have targeted anyone that they were cowards. I mean, they were looking for someone that wasn't too big of a threat to fight back. And I have more fans. I was real frail, and I was real tall and real skinny. 6'2", 118 pounds. And they went, well, we can kill that, and they did. And then it turned into a hate crime because the people who were with me, who that's a whole different subject, were going, don't do that. He's got a bone disorder, which it's a muscle disorder. And they said, oh, well, he must have AIDS. And then they really tried to kill me. And I was just walking up a sidewalk going to visit a friend. These people just were having a party and wanted to kill somebody. So that's
not what I normally do at parties.
No, so, me either.
Hello.
Hello. But it's, and I was thinking today, it was the life-changing experience for me. And I was thinking, really looking back at it, I almost things almost didn't happen where I wouldn't have been there. And I thought, well, I was trying to think, what would my life have done if that hadn't happened? But it was horrifying and all that stuff. But it was also the greatest experience of my life going through all of that. So, you can't change who you are. And I really felt like it was a destiny for me to go through it. So
okay,
I can't begrudge going through it.
I'm going to have to get clarification because I know, and we're friends. I feel we're friends.
Sure.
We have known each other for a while now. And I'm sure that most of the people listening to you are going, the best thing that ever happened to him? Seriously? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, the attack was not great. The pain was not great. Before I got to that experience, my childhood was absolutely like many millions of people. I had a terrible, terrible childhood, terrible young personhood. And it my life was just a big mess anyway. You know, it was just, I was on the verge of becoming myself. And I came from a family who really, it was just so abusive. And so everything, I mean, the atmosphere I was raised in, it was just unbelievable. And when this happened, what changed me, because I'm very psychic and I was very sensitive and very artistic. But once I went through the death process where you begin to, you know, see the lights and the people and everything, it changed me so much that I was 30 years old, 31 years ago when this happened. And I feel like I've just lived 2 or 3 lives since, you know. I mean, right now, I mean, I was raised to think I was so stupid and ugly that, and really, you know, I mean, I just came into people that, you know, didn't want me, didn't like it, and felt like the world, they were mad at the world, and they wanted to be, they felt like someone had to pay for it. So, you know, their children paid for it, but I really, because I wasn't a wanted child, they just put all that on me. So I just had such a difficult, terrible, and I was so out of step with everything that was them, that once I was killed and came back from it, and my spirit was able to expand, it made me be brave and be myself, and it gave me a spine, and the person that I am, I love being the person I am so much that it was worth every second to go through it. But it was hideous. But sometimes you have to, you don't learn from the sweet. I tell that to people all the time. You learn from the sour.
That's true.
And I feel like the person I am today, I couldn't have been that without this. And if I hadn't been killed, the way that my life was going, the terrible atmosphere I was in, the terrible family that I was being pressured by, I probably would have ended up killing myself. You know, it was just a terrible life. And I loved life. I just didn't like, I mean, I just was in an impossible situation. And then when this happened, out of the blue in its own way, but it felt very like it was my destiny. And out of it, you know, the case where I was, you know, it went to the feds got involved because it was at a time like now where there's all these hate things going on. And it was the first case in my city that someone took to court and won in this type of thing, a hate crime thing. And I don't know, it just gave me something that I just didn't have. And I've been a very poor person money-wise, but I'm very rich in love and people. I have people who love me now. My family didn't love me, but I have people who love me now. I don't have to worry about if something happens to me again that I have to lie in a hospital bed dying by myself because my family was wanting me to go away. I don't have to feel like, I mean, you know, I feel like I've accomplished so many things. And right now, I mean, I open my little store. I've written and been a part of, I think now I'm by the end of this year, 12 books. My album is just about finished, a metaphysical album. I have the guy that I do that with, we call ourselves Indoor. And we have an album called The Witching Tree and Songs of a Past Life. And I have so many things happening right now that, you know, I realize I'm just a very happy person, and I'm a very lucky person. And even though my body has been crushed, and it's a chore to live. It's a real chore to live.
But you love it so.
I love every second of it. And if it hadn't turned the way that it did, I've already would have been in the ground 31 years, rotting in the 3-piece lime green polyester suit my mother was trying to force on me anyway. I've told that story before.
You have.
And nobody would have known me. Nobody would have known me. And I wouldn't have had a voice, and I wouldn't have helped. It helped me, so I've helped other people.
Yes.
So, you know, it's worth every second of it. And and I'm not, you know, it's not like, you know, I mean, other people suffer. So it was just my suffering, you know, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
Well, I am going to just simply say that I'm so pleased that you came through that, because I think that my life would be a little bit dimmer if you weren't in it. So I'm very glad that you're a part of me.
Well, thank you. And I am yours too. And we have a good time. You know, I'm very big about enjoying life. You know, you have to enjoy it.
And you
have to.
Yes.
You have to.
It grows.
You have to
enjoy it. It grows
it.
when you do.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
You know, there's so many spoilers.
But you know what? I think that what you went through that made you who you are now, as difficult as it was, I would agree that was a path that you had to walk, as bad as that sounds. But I do want to go ahead.
Bad.
Huh?
It's not bad at all. It's not bad to say it at all.
But, you know, I do want to say that the things that you can do are so astounding. And I have been a paranormal investigator I was counting it up the other day, as far as actual real investigations, over a decade. And considering that I was a mom for a long time and, you know, a working person, drudge, boring. I wasn't boring. It's hard for me to be boring. I don't think I'm boring. Other people probably might sometimes.
No.
But it's just so much fun to interact with people that have come before us. And I can't do that often the way that you do. And I know that Lori, who's been just incredibly quiet through this, because she also knows what you went through and also appreciates you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to bring her voice out, because you know what? She is not nearly as quiet and shy as she appears to be. Hello, Lori.
Hello.
But,
yes.
You know, we were so fortunate that we got to work with Mark that night.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And Mark, I know that you were busy while we were doing this. You were, for those that don't know, we've talked about this a little bit, but there was a case that came up in Pensacola that a friend of mine had a home, and one of his neighbors was having a problem too. But my friend has the most wonderful animal, the best dog next to any of mine. And Bo would not go into this house. He would, you know, when they tried to take him in, he would cower, be afraid. Bo is the most exuberant, well-loved, never afraid of anything animal. He was my dog Heidi's best friend outside of her pack. And he's just a wonderful boy. So when I got a message that said, would you like to look at this? Because Bo won't even go in. He's terrified. I was like, oh, he can't be terrified. Yes, I want to do this. So I called Lori and we started talking about it. When I got more details. I called Mark. I was like, I think I need more than I have, and really, when I called you, Mark, I was wanting to just kind of get some help in case there was a message I wasn't able to receive.
Sure.
And Lori and I had gone to the house and done some basic readings before you got there, and ascertained where we thought there were things happening. And I still have. I haven't given it to David yet. I was going to give it to him when I gave him his drive back with the session. But the picture that you made of because it's a little house, tiny shotgun house. And when you walked in the door, you knew exactly where this was going on. It was the most amazing. That was amazing enough. Lori and I both were like, well, he just knew that right off.
Because that's where I was getting all the K2 hits.
Mm-hmm.
Was where he had that circle drawn in that room. And I kept feeling like someone was walking up behind me in the off room to the side. And he nailed that with that picture. I was just like, holy mackerel, you're right. This is where it was at. That's where we're getting the K2 hits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh my goodness, you're right on the money. And you hadn't even you've never even been in here.
And he was barely in the door, right?
Yeah. And he was picking up on it, and I thought, oh my goodness. I was just, my mouth was agape the whole time, let's just say.
And little did you know what was coming, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say neither did I know, okay? That was just like, oh my gosh. And I've got to tell you, Mark, that if you go to London with Teal, I want to be on that trip because I want to be with you in that house.
You have to be, because let me tell you, I'm going to crack that one open like an egg and fry it, because that one, those spirits have communicated with me hugely. And for people to understand the situation where you call me into, I tell people, don't tell me anything. And one of the things that happened because of the near-death experience I did, because I was basically, during the near-death, was going in, when you go through the tunnel, people see the tunnel, that's really a dendrite that goes to a larger part of the universal brain, basically. And so when you're doing that, you're astrally projecting from your body, and your spirit's going into the consciousness. Well, when I had done that during the death experience, what happens when I came back is I have a really good astral projective tool. I can remote view like crazy. And so what I do is I don't want any information. I look and pinpoint where I'm going to look. I see the house. I see the energy. I plan out where the energy comes from. And if you know where the spot where the energy comes from, then you know where the ghost or the whatever or any of it, where it's activated. And that's what I did that night to start off with. I came in and we did our thing. And that's, it's, I'm kind of like, it's all energy. So if you're going to ghost hunt, that's one of my tools. And then once I've got that plotted out, and two, what I felt like is like, I think you hadn't worked with me before.
Mm-mm.
And, if you're my friend, I'm just going to throw down and do what I got to do. And they had me come in and look at this place. But then I think they thought, well, he may want to ask for money or something, And I think they were kind of leery to just say, Mark, you want to just do this investigation? And I was like, I want to do an investigation. So I said, "Do you need me to help you?" So we, because I love to do investigations, I don't get very many chances, and I don't get chances to do channeling very often. So that one was a very good experience to stretch and do it, because I hadn't done it in several years.
Well, I'm going to tell you that when you did that, I had never, and Lori and I, neither one, had participated with someone with your skill set.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. I mean, you hadn't, had you, Lori?
No.
And,
no.
And what's so funny is that we went thinking that we're going to actively ghost hunt, which I'm glad that we had done some the night before at both places. There were two. And the thing that happened was that the ghost showed up.
Yeah.
And I was dumbfounded in a very excited way. Lori also was. And I mean, both of us, I'm not kidding, because you gave us instructions on what to do, and I'm not going to step on that. But I was doing what you asked me to do. And I'm looking to Lori like, give me something. And Lori is not even studying me.
No. I'm
on my own. So, because it was so mesmerizing.
I didn't even know what to say. Yeah. It was beyond.
It was astounding.
Yeah. It was.
Well, and it really is the lost art of the old-fashioned way of channeling, which is something that I've always loved, but a lot of people don't know how to do that. And for the people listening, see, it was a little shotgun house, and we had looked at the energy spots, and I was telling them all what I was picking up. But the spirit was there, and I could make him talk through me. And there was a little couch set, and so we all sat down, Lori to the left of me, and then Kat ahead of me. And it was a hot little place. I mean, there was not a lot of air or anything like that. And the owner was there. I didn't know anybody really, besides Kat at that time. I just met Lori. And so when you do channeling, I think people think of it like possession, and it's not. But the way I do it, I have a Teflon coating on my shallow, which is my solar plexus. And that's where everything comes in, goes out information. And so I had a Teflon coating. I sat down and at arm's length talked to the energy there. And you'll have to tell them what the energy was like, because I can't remember all the details, because when you channel, it kind of comes in and goes out. It's not your information.
Right.
But I do remember, it was a very not kind energy. And it was very unhappy, and it was there for a certain, it was looking for people who just aren't there anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, but I'll let you go into some of that,
Well, I didn't.
Or whatever.
I was just going to let people who are listening know that, if I'm not mistaken, the chat is not working on the streaming site. However, I am on Facebook as well. And if you go to the Fate Mag radio page, I've got the event open. And if you have questions, you are welcome to put them in there. And you'll see where I've said this is the place for comments, questions. So feel free to do that. It's Facebook. It's Fate Mag Radio. It's a public page. You should be able to go into that event with any questions that you may have for Mark or Lori. But I just wanted to let people know that, Mark, because this is new to so many people.
Oh, yeah.
Because without my friendship with you, I would still not have this experience. It's very rare. Yeah. And it was a gift. So, it was your gift that you shared with us.
Oh, well, I was thrilled to be given the chance to even just sit down and do it, because a lot of people, I don't get offers. to go on. I'm like, I love to do this stuff. I mean, people don't understand. I can see the veil. I understand how to use frequency to part the veil,
that
to speak.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's just ancient stuff that our ancient ancestors knew how to do all the time. We as modern people just don't do it. But when scientists are talking, well, we think there's a dimension, sometimes I can see the dimensional material. It's an electromagnetic plasma. And when you're speaking to spirits, you know, you have to use certain techniques to do it. But, you know, I'll sit down and part the veil and talk to the spirits, or I'll channel. And when you channel, if it's a real channeling, and we didn't get to film it, which sometime if you want to sit down and do a channeling somewhere, we can do that and you can film it.
Because it will have to be a spirit that wants us to, because we were trying to.
Yeah,
I can channel. Yeah. Oh, well, but I can channel spirits who will talk, and then you can see because I can sit down and do it. It's not just, you know, it's like you're an operator. So you're making the phone call. If a spirit answers, then you get them.
Well, there you go.
And
we'll do that.
But when we can show it, because I've seen it before, and I've scared the hell out of a few people before, because the spirit will superimpose over the psychic, which sometimes that happens with me, and the face changes, the eyes, the voice, the inflections, the attitude. And really what you're doing is you're kind of slipping into a suit. You're slipping into their psyche. And it's not as much them sliding into me. I'm kind of sliding into their energy because I have a protection to keep them at arm's length. But I would love to see the filming of catching it. But I've seen it. You know, I've seen it with people before, and I've seen it before with myself, where I've looked down and can see it, you know, superimposed over my hands, and people see it on the face. They'll smell perfumes and smells. And one person that the first channeling I really had was a spirit who had been burned to death. And you could smell, the room smelled like wet, burned wood. And, but it was so dramatic of a channeling, the first one I did, that it scared the witches. They were witches, friends of mine, and they were doing a circle to protect themselves and to let me do the channeling. And it scared them so badly. They were all afraid they were going to get eaten. And, but it wasn't that kind of thing, but it was just so different that it's really just ancient. And if you're doing it correctly, you can do it safely, and everyone, you know, there's no danger to it. But you'll see the spirit. And then sometimes you'll hear the voice that isn't yours, you know. You'll hear the voice, and it's very, I love it. It's an incredible experience when I do it, because after it, I feel like I've had an extraordinary meal, because it cleans out your system in a way. You're doing something very ancient, but I like to do them when there's a purpose, you know, that it's not just, you're just, you know, and in that case, those people felt like they were being targeted and terrified. And it was not just that house, it was several houses in that little stretch. So, and it was a malicious energy. So it was very interesting to
Lori,
me. But
I would love for Lori to share her take, because now I'm not kidding. We have been investigating in California. We have been to Savannah, where there's extraordinarily old energy. We have been to north, south. We've been to Scotland, where there is so much old energy everywhere. And that was such a great time with our friends, not the tour. But, it was so neat. But Lori, I think this was probably, because I know for me it was, I feel like it was probably one of your more interesting moments.
Yeah, I do have, there was no doubt. I was mesmerized, I guess is the best way of putting it. I could hardly speak. I was just dumbfounded. It was like, holy crap, he's the real deal. And I've never met somebody with his capabilities ever in my life. And when he went to the first house where the people were living, and the little dog, Daisy, who looked like she was on her deathbed.
She did.
And she was very lethargic, and then, she had been through so much in that house that the owners would have to come home because she would be all jacked up and running around and scared to death and wouldn't calm down. And when we were there, she was laying there she just looked like she was just done. She was, she was, and
it was pitiful.
Yeah, it was so sad. And Mark walked through the house and he said, "Oh, right here, this is where it stopped. This is, and the owners were in shock because that's where everything was taking place. Where Mark said, well, the spirit comes here, it likes the beer, it likes fried chicken, and the owners of the home were just like, mouths were gaped open. They said, well, we do that all the time. Mark says, well, he likes that. It reminds him of home. It reminds him of, the way he used to be, because they drink beer, do a lot of fried foods. They do a lot of, celebrating, partying, that type of thing. And then Mark came in with the water, I think. It was the water.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the tone is the amazing part for me. When he set the tone and walked through the house and put the water around, because it was a shotgun house too. And he went, and we stayed in the back in the kitchen area, and we stayed out of his way, and he went through the house like 3 times and then went around Daisy like 3 times and then walked clear around. And when he was done, the amazing part for me was Daisy jumped up like a new dog, smiling.
She did.
She was smiling. The dog had a smile on her face and just trotted right back to the kitchen and walked around like, hey, this is great.
And she stopped next to that bed where that energy center had been.
Yep.
And she just stood there like, I'm standing here.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm standing there. Yeah. And
unreal.
And it was, and the owners were even shocked.
Yeah. And the people out there need to know the thing with the dogs. See, when we were in the first house, I knew about I knew the spirit hated animals of any sort, but it really was targeting dogs because it hates dogs. And this spirit was like, for a good reason. And to him, that any good dog, a dead dog is a good dog. And the dogs were, that dog, Daisy, was just, he targeted her immensely. And she was she really was, just looked dead. I felt so sorry for her. And the other little puppy, the reason it was terrified, it hated them.
Yeah.
And which we covered when we were talking to the spirit. But it hated dogs, and it wanted to kill them. And with her, I think it was wearing her out.
Yeah.
And to the owner of that house, the fourth one, is the little house that the dog Daisy was in. I didn't know anything about the other house, but when the guy came up, I was able to tell him what was going on in his house, and which he liked. He really enjoyed that. And
he had people in there prior who did not do what they said they would do.
No,
because they didn't know.
No, they were artists.
And when you get a lot of psychics and a lot of paranormal investigators, some of them, they're there to investigate, but it depends upon each person's skill level and what they're going to do, and what happened sounded like, what people want to see. They want to see the ghost hunters screaming and running and going, what's that noise? And and I'm more of, let's sit down, let's get the cameras going, let's fish, let it unfold, get the material, get the manifestation, then let's panic if you want to panic after that, but hold off until then. But don't panic, because there's nothing to be afraid of usually. And in this case, it was this creature, this person was very criminal. And the energy that was there was still criminal, even though it had been over a century.
Yeah.
And they were still looking for people that they were looking for when they died. For the same person. Yeah. And it just so happened that these people were in their way and that the animals were there. And it was it has a bad influence on one of the other people, one of the other renters. I was able to tell them all the stuff before they would have, like I said, you always, if you're what you're doing, you should be able to tell the people where the energy is, what you're sensing, what to expect, what you're experiencing, and then how to, in an energy way, attack that, to change the locks, to push the energy out, and change the thing, like to the poor little doggy. I was trying to get the energy cleared and so that it wouldn't be able to drain her anymore, scare her anymore. And it was scaring the inhabitants, but it was really terrifying the dog.
Yes.
And the reason the dog came into the room and sat on the spot where we had just shoved the energy through is because she was like, she's a part of chasing it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because she came in there very happy, very energetic.
Oh, yeah.
And, and if people don't think there are energies that can't drain you and make you sick and make you die, there are some of them that will feed off of you until you don't die from them, but you die from the effect. It's like someone I know right now that's dying, got a leukemia and cancerous kind of thing going on because of energy they did, energy work, and they're going to probably die from it because it's the end result, because it's the energy was parasitic, but they'll die from the the effect of what it's doing. It's not necessarily killing them directly, but they'll die from it draining them.
Right.
And it was draining that dog, and then it had a bad intent for the lady of the house, and didn't like the guy. It liked the fact that it felt like he could party, because when the spirit was killed, it was running. It had been drunk,
running from a bar,
running from a bar,
yeah,
and looking for basically a prostitute friend who lived there and in that house 100 years ago, and she wasn't there. And then when they caught him, they killed him, and because he was on the run. And so he likes to drink, he likes to eat, he likes to be around all that stuff. But he didn't like the dogs, and he didn't like being stuck in what he thought was a dump, because they're being remodeled.
Yeah.
And and he was just a cantankerous thing. But when I was talking to him, the owner of the property was there. But when I was channeling, I had my eyes closed, but I could see all of you and see them with my eyes closed, because I was looking through the eyes of the person.
Yeah.
And I remember talking. The owner was leaving quietly, and I didn't know that he was.
Yeah.
And I heard the spirit look at him, go, "Where are you going, buddy?" And I could see him. I could see him and you and Lori sitting in the chairs. My eyes were closed, and but I could see you like I see you with my eyes open. And so it's an interesting effect. And there's parts of it. I mean, in the next few months when I'm doing my Psychic Worm Stitch book and videos and things like that, I'm going to be able to go in depth, I think, and show people how all that works for me, and how it works through the tools we have, each person has. And
I have to kick you because people deserve to know that. That was so neat.
Yeah.
And I was really blown away, because I had no idea that this was a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew people said that they did, but they weren't people I knew. And just like people listening to this may not be as familiar with you. But I'm going to just go out and say that I do know you. I know your ethics. I feel like I do. You're one of the most honorable people I know. And you're welcome. I had nothing to do with that, but
Yeah, but thank you. But it's sweet. That's sweet.
Well, just call him as I see him, my friend. But it is so special, because you do absolutely. You're somebody people are going to be able to go back and look at this information and say, well, that's fascinating, because it is.
Oh,
and then you're just kind of like, I wonder how that's done. And it's really a personal thing. I know that you said that people can do that. I don't know that many people would be willing to go to the effort to be able to, but what you did, had it been a different spirit, it would have been very freeing for that spirit, and as well as helping the owners and residents and other people. I mean, there was so much there. But we've got about 3 minutes before we have to take our break. But when we come back, I want to let Lori share some with you about the things that we saw in Scotland, and maybe get some feel from you for that. But I also want to talk about when you actually removed that spirit, because that was something I had never seen. Lori, does that sound good to you?
Oh, yeah. That part was amazing. That was that was mind-boggling, especially the tone. I can't explain that.
It's the frequency, isn't it, Mark?
It's a frequency.
It is
of something.
Yes, it's part of what I call the veil splitter.
Yeah.
What?
Because it's like a death
The veil. It is. It's there's a dial tone that it's a level of frequency that is it's a spirit dial tone, and I connect into the spirit dial tone. Then I use the veil splitter to basically, well, in the case there, first we communicate, when I was doing cleansing and stuff like that, then I'm in a different mindset. But what you have to do, it's all energy. So if you approach it religiously, it may not respond to what you're spiritually telling it. But if it's an energy, you can change the energy field, draw a boundary, and then push it out. And that works so much better. That's why, sometimes exorcisms don't always work with spirits, because they go, I'm not Catholic, or they're not what the person is projecting that is, so they don't respond, or they get pissed. And but if you treat it as energy, it doesn't have any, it has to respond to it, because it's either going to resist but in the way that I do it, I don't have, I just have an instinct how to deal with each energy and how to make the frequency intense enough to overwhelm their energy to push it out of the circle I just drew with the water and the salt. Mm-hmm. And then once it's pushed out, then you seal it out, and then it can't get back in that circle, which the house is now drawn in the circle. Yeah. And then you push it out. It's going to go somewhere else,
Well, it was
you can't.
It was something else.
Oh, boy.
But we do have to go to our break. And for everyone listening, thank you so much. We will see you on the other side of this. Thank you so much for listening to us here on the X, and I know you're loving it. We'll see you in a minute.
At the X value your opinion, and we're asking for your vote for the People's Choice Awards for the best in-house show and the best syndicated program on the UnX network. Now, if you're an UnX supporter and an UnX listener and you have a favorite show you want to vote for, just go to unxnetwork.com and cast your vote on the show page. Winners will be announced at this year's 2023 UnXCon on Halloween, October the 31st. It's going to be a big party, and we really hope to see you there. Get your tickets now while you still can for the biggest Halloween party in the paranormal, the XCon 2023 in Springfield, Missouri, and run over to unxnetwork.com right now and cast your vote for your favorite show on the X.
Are you thinking about purchasing a wood-fired heating or cooking appliance but don't know where to start? The new book, Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking, will guide you through the process and make the decision much easier. Find out about wood stoves, wood-burning fireplace inserts, masonry heaters, cook stoves, brick ovens, and more. Learn about operation and maintenance, buying and storing wood, even how to make your own charcoal. A bonus section includes delicious recipes for cooking in a wood-burning oven, grill, tandoori oven, or smoker. The wise homeowner, prepper, or homesteader will have the ability to heat their home with wood when the power goes out or to save money on increasing gas bills. Wood-fired heating and cooking is available at Amazon. Visit www.woodfiredpub.com for more information. That's woodfiredpub.com.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off for school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
People, ever had a garden that just doesn't perform? Tired of buying expensive fertilizers all to get plant burnout? How about trying plant food instead of plant poo that is full of petroleum enhancers? Log on to goplantgo.com for an all-natural plant food and a wonderful soil amendment that really works. These products will bring health and longevity to your garden plants. Whoever wrote I Never Promised You a Rose Garden didn't have Go Plant food. Yep, it works on roses too. Here's one for you. Roses are red and violets are blue. Log on to Go Plant Go and see what it can do. That's corny. Wait, it works on corn too. This food will not disappoint. Go Plant Go has been feeding big farms for over 20 years. So why not the smaller crops? Food is important. Good, natural food. So log on to goplantgo.com and try your very own today. Use discount code UNX at checkout and save an additional 10%. And shipping is free.
You're locked in to the X, KUNX-DB, Kansas City, Missouri.
This is Margie Kay, inviting you to listen to my UNX News podcast or watch the show on YouTube or Rumble every Friday at 7 Eastern, 6 Central Time, when I discuss the news of the week and I interview top researchers, filmmakers, authors, and investigators. Mark your calendar for the UNX News Show, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time at unxnetwork.com.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Got your Halloween decorations up yet? Well, the moment you do, snap a few pictures or video clips of your Halloween decorations and enter the Best Decorated Halloween House Contest by October 16th from the UNX Network. The winner will receive 2 free tickets to XCon 2023 in Springfield, Missouri, live or live streaming. Just go to unxnetwork.com/contest to enter. That's unxnetwork.com/contest to enter by October 16th.
Explaining the unexplained. The new unxnetwork.com. Explaining the unexplained. The new unxnetwork.com.
To Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine, and I am Kat Hobson, your host. I am so glad y'all are here tonight because this is quite a show. I have 2 of my, really they're 2 of my favorite people. I have investigated with my friend Lori all over the U.S., all over Scotland. Well, we're working on all over. A lot of Scotland. We're going to do the rest of it. We go back in June or a good bit. And with Mark Elliott Fultz, who is the host of Universal Truths. He is the author of Chattanooga Chills. He is a chef. He is a psychic medium channel, wonderful metaphysician, owner of Gypsy Moon, which is a nifty little metaphysical shop he just opened in Milton, Florida, outside of Pensacola, and an all-around pretty darn nice guy. So thank both of y'all for being here.
Thanks for asking.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, again.
You're welcome again. I love both of y'all. I think that working together is one of my joys with people that I like, and it's really nifty. Lori and I, when we generally investigate, we do not bring skill sets such as Mark has. We investigate with tools and intuition, which we both have in droves, and we just have a really fun time learning the history of locations and exploring them. Lori, what was it like for you to have such a different experience? What did you think of that as we went into it, and did it live up to your expectations?
Well, when you call me and say, "Hey, I got a haunted location, let's go check it out," I'm in.
I do.
And I really wasn't. I always try to walk in with an open mind. I try not to have any expectations because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The one thing I've learned, I can walk into, just like that, the shotgun house that we walked into, where it was just being remodeled, not the one where the people were living. But I could feel that there was something in there. I mean, you could feel something. And I've learned to do that. I can read a room, but I can't do what Mark does.
Me either.
I don't even have a fraction of what he's able to do. But, without my equipment and my just gut feeling, the investigation would be pretty boring.
I think maybe not if you had to depend on that.
Yeah. But with Mark coming in and everything, that the gut feelings that I was having and the feeling like someone was walking up behind me and where things were happening, and Mark said, "Yep, this is why." And I thought, okay, my gut feeling was right. And when we did the necrophonic box, we kept hearing animal and dog. And I said, "Do you like screwing with the pets?" And we heard yes. And I'm thinking, and then when Mark came in and when he did the channeling and we found out why he hated dogs so much, why he did what he did to the animals. And, it was everything that I was experiencing, or what I came into understanding, Mark verified. I mean, he went into detail. Mark went into specific detail of things that there's no way I would have known, but I had that gut feeling, just that.
Which means that you did know to a degree. You just didn't
to a degree
trust it or know the details.
Yeah, I didn't know the detail of, because I could tell with the necrophonic when it was coming through, it hated animals. It hated cats, he hated dogs, didn't know why, but Mark explained that with the channeling, and I was completely blown away when he said, "Well, I'm just going to sit down here and channel him, because if he starts talking, he's not going to shut up."
Yeah.
So he said, let me
and run your recorder.
Yeah. And I kind of went, huh? And I went, I was just, smacked in the face like, holy mackerel. When he started doing he called it the dial tone, toning in, I was just, it affected me. I mean, the tone, I could, it was vibrating in me.
It was internal.
Yeah. I don't know how else to explain it. And then when he got toned into the spirit, the schmuck that he was, I mean, I didn't even know, I couldn't say anything. I was just in awe, in shock. And you were the only one that could ask questions. And I couldn't think. I was just staring at Mark's face.
I know.
It was,
I looked over and I'm like, do you have any questions? And you're like, no.
No. And I
tell him why you were looking at my face.
Yeah.
And it was like his hair changed, his shape of his face changed. Everything changed, and I didn't know what to do. I just sat there with my mouth gaped open. It was like, but...
And I will vouch for that because I was constantly looking like, little help here. She's just like...
Yeah, I know, and I was absolutely no help to her because
it was mesmerizing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm... his face structurally changed.
Yeah.
His cheeks were fuller. His brow was different. His hairstyle was different. And he's just sitting in a chair in front of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
When you start asking questions, his voice changed.
Yeah.
His attitude changed. Everything
He became
changed.
a northerner.
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just a little southern psychic. I just say no.
You're so much more. But, it's really, I mean, your body changed. Your posture changed. Your
everything.
Yeah. Everything. It was not you sitting in that chair, although that was your physical body. Yeah. And that was a close call. That was get up and run out the door or sit through this and be amazed.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't any leaving.
No, I wasn't going to leave. That's for sure. It was like, but when it got to the point where you were getting too close to too much personal stuff, his attitude, no, it's none of your business.
Yeah. Oh, and that was and that was said several times. If we ever got too close, because it was like, what was your picture on the post office wall? That's none of your business. And that was something else that fascinated me because we're sitting there talking to Mark, looking at Mark, and he's like, that artist that did my picture in the post office, he did such a bad job. He made me look black. I'm just really tan, and my hair. I mean, there were so many weird, and then I was like, well, why was your picture in the post office? That's none of your business.
None of your business, yeah.
And there were some things that were too close.
Yeah. You asked him what color was his hair, and he goes, what makes a difference? Well, what color was your hair? Well, it was black.
Yeah.
And I went,
I mean, he was very strong through you. And when you're not, because I am not used to that.
No.
And
they can be very gruff,
Well, it was just kind of, I mean, he's been dead for so long. He had a body to speak through. I'm sure that he had things to say, but when he talked about his death, he stabbed a guy. He didn't know the guy had a gun. He's running out of the bar, and the guy comes out and shoots him, and he's sitting there looking like, why aren't we getting up? Why aren't we getting up? And then he got scared and he ran back to the house. I mean...
Yeah. You asked him, where did he get shot at?
Yeah.
And Mark kept hitting like the palm of his hand in the middle of his head, in the middle of his forehead. And you were asking, are you trying to remember? And he just hit he did it again. He hit his hand in the middle of his head. And that's when you said, oh, were you shot in the head?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. He said, but I didn't get up.
Yeah. And that's the emotion. I mean, the guy was sharing emotion.
Yeah.
And stuff. I mean, that's what was.
And he ran back to Effie's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
scared
it's
them.
very funny, that name, because there's a wonderful lady at the place where I have my store named Effie, and I forgot about that was the name of this spirit that he was looking for. That's very interesting.
That's
not a common name.
No.
But not a very common name.
No.
But, and the frequency, when you talk, the thing with the frequency, one reason that it's an unusual thing, when I was dying, and the first thing that happens is when the spirits call you and you start going to them, they do that call, that frequency, and you vibrate out of your body. So when I came back into my body, I had that frequency. So it's like I know the tone. So now when I talk to spirits, I just hit that tone and project enough to get into that. It's like a telephone wire. You just basically, you tone it, open that wire and make it vibrate, and then you can do whatever. And but that tone, one reason that a lot of psychics have trouble getting that is unless you've experienced it, you may know it, but it's a different thing when you feel it in your body, and it's just something that, but when I do that towards spirits, it's a whole different situation than average ghost hunting. And I've done some with other groups, but of course they didn't know what they were photographing. They never got the idea or the concept. It's like, watch this. And I stood there in one place where there's a place that I know there's a place that you can really detect one of the dimensional walls. There's millions of them, and I stood there with the frequency of it. They filmed the stuff pouring out of it, but they didn't understand it. And it was, I thought, the fact that you can find a dimensional wall and open it and possibly be able to measure the depth of a dimensional hallway or layer, that's scientific,
Yeah.
And and they missed the whole thing, and they had videotaped it, but then because he got mad over other stuff, he took it down, and that was his claim to fame.
Oh my God.
And I don't have it, but it was great because the stuff, you could see people coming out of what I was doing was the material is like a vibrating strings, or it almost is actually like some kind of rice. It's vibrating rice or thread material, and it's strange to explain. That the dimensional wall, it's a plasma sheet, or it's like an intestinal tube, and you've got these walls in between you and the next tube. Well, if you put the frequency on it, it will move that material, will vibrate it to the side, and then you can look beyond that veil and the material will come out. The first part you get is static. And then behind that, that's where you start to get the spirits and the talking and the well-developed whatever, or the communication. And I think I could do that in a setting with no problem. But for ghost hunting, it's a great thing to do. And, because you can sit there, because when you're finished, it closes, the veil closes, and the material, whatever came out, goes right back in. So, because it's like it's on a rubber band, it's being pulled out, and then when you quit, it just goes right back in place. So, but the frequency is very freaky. And when I'm really channeling, I have been known to hold a note for about 3 minutes without breathing. And because my body quits breathing, I don't know how to explain it. And to get to that point, I've really had to really work it up. But I had a scientist friend, Jim Clausen, who was with me at one thing, and he was like, "How, they just kept looking at me." And when I've been in metaphysical circles, when we've done that, when we've opened, done the frequency, and it just keeps going and going and going, and finally I'll kind of come back to what I'm doing and go, breathe. And, but I'll go for it. I don't have to breathe while I'm doing it for some reason. And I have lung damage, so it's real strange, but when it works, it's amazing. But, I can't take credit for it, but I just have the tools to do it. So, but I would like to get it caught on. But like I said, it's something that a lot of people don't know what it is, so they don't know what to do with me. And see, like when I came to y'all saying, I didn't know we were going to do that, but
neither did
when
we.
I said, well, would you? Yeah, but I said, well, let's just sit down and do this. And see, I was able to just do it. And that's because I have a discipline. I have a discipline. And, but it's, I can do it when I have to. And, but, like I said, if there are, cameras and everything, we can go somewhere and do it. I can sit somewhere and channel an energy from somewhere else to me. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in a haunted place.
I have a couple of ideas.
Forecast. Yeah, okay.
I do. I have a couple of ideas on places that are not far from you that I would like to try that with and or experience that with. And I've been trying to talk Lori into coming down for an event anyway. So we will get together and do that because Lori, but you would have to, I'm not sure how we would do the filming because it continuously, every time we would get started, it would shut off the camera.
Yeah, it does. And he did not want to. He did that particular spirit because he was still on the lamb. He thought.
Yes.
He did not want to be seen.
He did not.
So, and when he would look, when I could see through, because what happens is when I'm seeing through their eyes, they're superimposed over me. So I'm looking through their eyes. And when he didn't want it to be recorded, and it was like, click.
Yep,
and
every
you would
time.
hear it go, click. And I thought, oh my. But there was a scientist kind of guy that in one group I was in, and he would go, oh, things like that are really what take better. They suck up energy. They can turn, I have been in so many things where it will just turn the batteries off. Doesn't matter how charged they are. Doesn't matter. It's good to have trail cameras as well because sometimes they'll catch strange things. But infrared will catch the superimposing, I think, a little easier than a regular camera. But
I think that's right because I can get stuff with my IR cameras that I cannot get with even an HD. I mean, it just won't.
Yeah. But if you got a infrared, I think that would catch the superimposing. But the superimposing, when I'm seeing it, it looks like smoke over me that when I'm looking through it, then it takes, the plasma, it covers me in a plasma sheath, and then it takes on the shape of the spirit as it manifests. So to me, it looks like I'm looking like I have a sheet of some kind of jello between me, it about 2 inches in front of me. But I can tell it's the person. Then I can see when I'm looking through the eyes, but it's kind of like through a black and white camera. But it's looking through them, but it's like looking through a plasma mask almost. But because of my system, it's separate from me, so they're not in me. They're just they're in my system, and then once I'm finished, I eject that, and so then I'm not infected. They're not, driving the car, and so I can do it in a safe manner. But if we could do infrared, I think that would catch it.
Well, I do. I've got a couple of them, and we can do different angles so that if it chooses to crash one of them, maybe it won't think to crash all of them.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Well, and when it was looking straight ahead. That's where the energy was shooting straight ahead, because he was talking. Because when we chose who would be the questioner, you were the questioner, so that's where the energy was going. If you want to film, you need to make sure one is pointing from a direction that the questioner is not.
Okay.
In the path, because the spirit, the frequency, the energy is focused right at the questioner, because it's a direct. And if somebody has a question, they have to say the question to the questioner, then the questioner asks.
Yes.
And then, so that there's a direct connection, because if they're sitting there going who, what, where, some of them get discombobulated because it takes a lot of effort to talk.
Right.
And so they want to get it done.
So they're still expending that much energy even though they're coming through you? Well,
they're coming through me, but I'm giving them energy to do that temporarily. I'm making a platform. I've built, by the time I've done that, I've built a platform of energy so they can't pull it from me, but I'm giving them a level of energy to use to a certain point. Then when that's gone, then it just hangs up or disconnects, because I don't want them getting too much of my internal energy. So I make sure there's enough energy that I've raised to give them the ability, the battery, to do it. And then when I'm finished, then I disconnect it. And they're not able to feed off of something. They're just taking the energy I put on the platform.
Okay.
And so, but batteries are another energy. So, but the reason it turns the things off is because it just takes so much that if the battery is in the way of the frequency, it takes it.
Right.
And so what you would have to really think about is having a camera behind the questioner besides being over to the sides. But the ones usually that are directly ahead of where I'm doing frequency, they just have no chance. And I'm sure there's a way to do an energy, what would you call it, boundary around the cameras, maybe to interrupt that. But if without it, then they just suck up the batteries and eat them and toss them to the
They're
side.
very good at that.
Whatever. Yeah. They're very good at that. But and many ghost hunts, people's cameras quit, and that's because it's in the direct path of the energy source. I mean, it's
that is good knowledge.
And if you don't have an energy available for them, they have to take it wherever they're going. And that's why they eat thermal heat as well. That's why it gets cold around you, because they're pulling the energy off of you so they can manifest. So if you feel cold, that's them pulling the thermal heat off of you.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
So, like, I'm very protective of my energy when I'm in an environment where other people are ghost hunting with me, because a lot of times people will just say, you can just take any of our, take our energy.
No.
And I'm like, no,
You better
not
watch
mine.
it. Yeah, no.
Mine is my energy. And I mean, I have corrected people that I didn't even know at public ghost hunts, but I'm like, no, you cannot use my energy.
And if you give them energy, like I said, when I use energy to support them manifesting so they can communicate, it's a different energy I pulled up that's not out of my out of my body. It's coming out of, I'm collecting it almost static electricity, collecting it and then putting it into a form they can pull it from. When people say, take my energy, you're asking, you're giving them the permission to suck your energy. So that also might mean, well, they say, if you don't have a great protector system, that might mean they can get into your axon, into your axon terminal, your cord, or get into your field. And I know somebody who has a problem with that right now. And they didn't know how to get rid of the energy, because they gave them permission to get in their field. Mm-hmm. And then it's protected by the field. So anytime they try to get rid of it in their room, it's not affecting it, because it's being protected by their cord coating. And so you have to push it out and then push it back into the room and then cleanse it. And so, you don't tell a spirit that you don't know what you're looking at. You can use whatever you want.
I agree. And the only time that I have allowed my energy to be used in an investigation was when somebody else that I knew in the investigation was like, well, we can build an energy bridge to kind of help. And I was like, you don't even know what you're asking. This is crazy. And so when I did it, I went ahead and did it, because the particular spirit we had been trying to communicate with for several visits there, and it wasn't working, didn't have enough oomph. And so I did that. I was like, you're not going to like it. I mean, so when we touched hands, the poor man was like, oh, I'm down. I'm just like, if I'm flowing, I'm flowing. I'm sorry. Because at that point, I didn't control it very well. But somebody videoed that, and I saw it once before I couldn't find it again, but it was really something. Mm-hmm. But
I was
were you there? I thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, the thing you do also before like when you're in a group doing, see what I would do with people before doing contact, if I were really doing it in a group, to where their energy, see, when we were doing our channeling thing, I had it contained. It wasn't going to affect you or Lori.
Right.
And, but if you're in a group experience, then what you do is, if they're going to put energy into something, you put them into an energy field that contains their energy, keeps it safe, keeps it freshly locked away. And they can connect with other people, put their energy in to give enough platform for the spirit to do whatever. But when it's finished, you purify that, you make sure, and then each person takes back the energy they put in. You don't just leave it.
Right.
for the energy to eat, for the spirit to eat. But you make sure that yours is protected so that when you pull it back, it's safe, but you don't also just freely give your energy and feed something that you don't need to be feeding. Giving a meal, but there are safe ways to do it technically that, but a lot of people don't do any meditation. They don't do any energy work. And then they go into these places and then wonder why they come out with a dead boyfriend, following them around, or sick, or infected.
I've had people call it the paranormal flu.
Yeah, I know that paranormal flu very well. Yeah, no. It should really, if in the right sense, when you've done it right, it should feel like you've had a great and wonderful meal. Really, because your energy has recycled. You didn't take in the energy of the spirit. You had your energy, but your energy, by using it that way, when it comes back into your body, it's energized. It's at a high frequency. So you should feel you tired but exhilarated.
Yes.
If you're feeling tired and listless and like you got the flu, that's because you got drained. And then if you start to, dead boyfriend standing by the bed going, hey, how about Friday night, then you got a problem.
Indeed.
But not very many people get that, but sometimes it happens. I have seen it. But it all comes down to being, it comes down to being an energy technician, and everyone has the ability. It's just that you have to learn the discipline. You have to sit down and learn to do a little bit, just even a little bit of energy work before you do any of it. And then your responses with it can be, will increase, 50 to 100% from what it was, because you go in these places and hope something happens. And instead of going in and hoping something happens, I go in, use my tools, and say, now what you doing? What am I looking at? How do I need to deal with this? And then, if I need to talk to the energies there, if it's conscious, if it's recorded, I have to know you have to know your snuff. And then looking at it, your system will tell you if it's what it is. And then you deal with it. If you're going to talk, if you're going to get rid of it, if you're going to do whatever, you do it. And you do it without drama. You just do it. But you get a better response. If you do that, if you go in and don't try to do the paranormal, look at me, I'm scared and running thing. I can't stand for someone to point a camera at something start to manifest, and then it's shaky camera run.
Yes,
and
I don't understand running. I mean, if you're going to be there and you're asking,
sit there.
Then, sit there. Appreciate that it's happening. Appreciate that you have that.
And I understand thoroughly getting the crap together of yourself. But I also understand that's what you're there for, is to get it. And you can. And one thing I know we didn't cover about the spirit in the house, one of the reasons it didn't like the animals is because at one point in his youth, people had turned the dogs on him.
Yeah.
And he hated dogs, and that's why he wanted to kill the dogs, and just didn't know how to do it except by draining them, by scaring them and wearing them down. And that's like another thing, in your house, if you have that going on and the energy, you don't know how to separate that energy from you, and it's draining you because you don't have a protective system, then as a paranormal person going into a situation, I have to be able to look at that and go, let's stop that. let's stop that drain. Because then there's people who go in the house and, yep, you got a problem, and then they stir it up and leave. And I've seen circumstances where people have done it, and there were children involved.
Yes.
And
that makes
I
me
have
very frustrated.
I've dropped tools and said nope, and took care of it. And as you, as a metaphysical investigator, have a duty, if you're going to investigate it and get it active or feed or talk, then you also have to be able to turn it down so that when you leave, you're leaving it in the state you came to it with. Or if it needs to be, if it's a something that a person or an energy that's in distress, to be able to relieve it ethically from that stress and maybe release it, because a lot of people go and talk. Oh yeah, they're in psychological and emotional pain, and we filmed it, and there we go. Or they start talking to the spirit, and then when they start to get information, they're talking to each other like they're not talking to the spirit.
Right. And
it's like the spirit's there talking to you, and you're not finishing. You're not letting it. You're giving it an unresolved talk, so you're leaving it more frustrated. And then if they go, "Do you know you're dead?" Of course they know they're dead. Or they at least figure it out, that there's something wrong, and they didn't go through the main chairs. Yeah. So, because a lot of spirits, they go right through the process and keep going, and they're not here. And then there are some that are. And if you're talking to them and they want to talk, because a lot of times they do, then you started the conversation. You have a duty to take care of that conversation, ask ethical questions, don't abuse, and then be an energy technician. Know your business, and know that if you have to keep someone safe from the energy, or the energy safe from something else, the spirits from something else, or to help it move on, then you need to know how to do that. And a lot of people don't. They just go in, stir it, and film it, and walk off and leave it running. And, that, to me, I try to, if I go look at something, and I try to, if it is somebody who is in distress, I try to help that, if I can. But sometimes you can't help them. It depends upon if they can listen to you or will or want to, because I've had spirits who tell me I didn't like them when I was alive. I'm not going to go around those other people while I'm dead,
Right.
Ain't happening. Because they're like us, because guess what? They're us.
Yeah. Well, they are us. They're humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Until they're not, unless you come into something else.
Yeah. Well, but anyway.
Which is a whole different show.
That's a whole different show.
Lori, I know that you're not saying very much.
That's okay.
Would you like to? I mean, because this was so fully your experience, and it was something that you've not, we were both shocked and surprised and unexpected more than shocked.
Yeah, when he came out of his channeling, and it was time for him to, make him leave. And, he did the tone around, the thing. The tone for me, it vibrated inside of me. I could feel it, But the thing that I think got me the most is I could feel when the guy got pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could feel it. Like it was almost like he didn't want to leave. It was like he was panicking.
Yes.
And he was like arms flailing was what I was seeing in my head. Like he didn't want to leave this space.
It was a safe place.
Yeah, and Mark had to, I don't know, you had to do it 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And you finally got him out. Got him pushed through the door, and it was like you could feel the energy calm inside the house.
Yeah, it cooled off.
Yeah.
The temperature dropped.
Yeah. When you pushed him out. And for some reason, I just had a feeling he went next door to the guy that was...
He did.
Yeah, that's where he moved.
He did. And see, that's one thing we didn't have access to. It was 4 houses.
Yeah. But
they're each individually being dealt with. Now, the one that we dealt with, the bookends, the one on the number 1 and number 4. And what I loved out of it was when the guy from number 4 came up, and I was able to tell him without knowing his circumstance what the situation. He goes, you haven't been in my house, but you know. And I'm like, but if you're in this and doing it, you should know your business.
Yeah.
Well, he had people there ahead of us who did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had not been straight up.
Yes. And, but to me, it's like there's so many things that can happen really badly. So easy for so many people. And see, these people, very sweet couple, very sweet dog.
Yes.
And here they are, being aggravated by this person who, but yes, we pushed it out of the first house, and then we pushed it out of the 4th house. But there's 2 houses in between. But of course, we didn't have permission to go in and do those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And unless I have permission, it's not mine to do.
Yes.
And that's part of my ethics. It's like, and somebody else might have, but it's because the spirit has a relationship with whoever lives in the houses. Right. And so you have to have the permission of the owner to change that relationship, get the divorce, and get them out, and change the locks, or it doesn't work.
Right.
And I've known people too who were getting an identity from the haunting, so they weren't really ready to get rid of it because they had attention coming from it.
Yeah.
And so they have to be ready to get rid of it. And those people were ready.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were so ready.
They were so ready. And like I said, I would like to know the follow-up with them sometime to know how it went.
Well, I know that the young couple, the last I heard, were extremely happy.
Yeah.
Good.
Their whole world was different. And And I have not spoken with the owner of the first house, well, the last one that we did, but I have not heard that it was a problem either. But I'm going back down and I will be seeing them. I've got their thumb drive with the channel session on it.
Oh, cool.
And, it's just fantastic because, but you can tell people too that I made you clean my car and me after we finished cleaning the house and Lori because because it had actually threatened me with and so
you brought the aggravator, me, into the house.
Yep.
And here he is. He's the boss of the house. He's been there over 100 years on what was there before, what's there now.
Yeah.
And he was perfectly happy being a bully.
Yes, he was.
He's perfectly happy eating everybody else's energy, watching everyone else live. And he didn't see why it was my business to come in and push him out of his property.
Yeah.
And, but see, it's not his property anymore. The people who bought it, it's their property. And you can't destroy that kind of energy. But all you can do is push it to outside the boundary and to possibly to another dimensional layer. And then it exists elsewhere, and it'll go do something else. But and sometimes they just go to a dry place or graveyard or somewhere where they can rest and feed, or they'll go to another house, or they'll go wherever they go. Yes. But they can't go back there because you can't destroy that energy.
Well, no, and it's not really our place to do that, is it?
If it
were possible.
No, and what they need to do is to transition. And if they don't want to transition, then it's up to them to go wherever. But if they want the transitioning, all they have to do is when people say turn, see the light, what that is you're seeing the light of the neurons when you turn on the pineal gland. So when you do that, then they can download and go through the process. So when you tell them to go into the light, you're turning on their third eye, and then they can transition. Because when I was dying, I transitioned through the third eye. The axon cord pulls up, and it pulls out. The last thing is everything comes out the third eye and then goes into the consciousness. So, so you're telling them to turn that light on, and they can download, and they can go to that any time. But they have to be willing to and not afraid to. And sometimes they think if they're going to go in that light, they don't know if they're going to be punished or not.
Exactly. And that's a whole nother story, but we're going to have that conversation the next time we talk, if you don't mind, because that's something I've run across in investigations. And, but we're out of time. I mean, I've had the best time. I've told people about Gypsy Moon. And is there anything that they need to know about you before we go? You got a couple of minutes, and Lori, you too. You each have a minute.
When you want me to come back down, just let me know when I need to come back down. We can do some investigating again.
Well, you can come for the thing that I'm going down for, which, by the way, Meeting of the Minds, Spirit Heads in Paradise. Yes, indeed, it's in Gulf Shores. I'm not going back to Key West ever. So they moved it for me. No, just kidding. But Mark, thank you. You guys, how fortunate are we to be able to do these things? I mean,
very fortunate, and to have a platform. I mean, I think it's amazing because, I mean, I'm before all the internet and all that stuff. I've been doing this 43 years doing this.
Yeah.
And, before there was an internet, when I thought, what's that? What the hell says an internet,
and then here
highway? Here we are. And, but it's, no, we're very blessed and happy. And I think we should catch things as much as we can, because then to me, it's like, for people to understand, there is so much beyond. We don't stop. And all of these things, because people can't handle it, because they want to say everything is science. Well, alchemy was science. Metaphysics was science before science was science. And so we need to get back to a little bit of that, because it's human science. It's everything it is. It's all through our human tuning fork.
Yeah.
And so it just, go ahead.
We're out of time. We're all the way out of time.
Well, thank you. I had a good time. My big mouth. Thank you. Bye.
We had a wonderful conversation. And for everyone listening, thank you so much. We will be back next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. Thank you so much for joining me with my guests, Lori Dorsey and Mark Fultz. Good night.
Bye-bye.